The vast expanse of the Milky Way galaxy teemed with life, a cosmic tapestry of diverse civilizations. Among the countless species that called this celestial realm home, one stood apart: the Zarthak. They were not known for their strength, nor their technological prowess. Instead, the Zarthak were infamous for their perceived weakness. On their homeworld, a small rocky planet orbiting a dim red dwarf star, the Zarthak evolved into beings of quiet resilience. Their bodies were frail by galactic standards, with spindly limbs and large, expressive eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. But it was their minds that set them apart, highly empathic and capable of processing complex emotional information. As the Zarthak took their first tentative steps into interstellar space, they quickly realized how different they were from the dominant species of the galaxy. In a realm where might made right, and technological superiority equated to respect, the gentle Zarthak found themselves woefully out of place. The powerful civilizations of the galaxy, with their massive warships and planet-cracking weapons, looked upon the Zarthak with disdain. "What use are beings who cannot fight?" they sneered. "What value do they bring to the galactic community?" Time and again, the Zarthak sought alliances, offering their unique abilities in exchange for protection and a place among the stars. But each time, they were turned away, their offers of friendship met with cold indifference or outright hostility. On a fateful day, a delegation of Zarthak approached the Galactic Council, a loose confederation of the most influential species in the Milky Way. The Council chambers, a massive space station at the galaxy's core, buzzed with activity as representatives from 100 worlds debated and negotiated. The Zarthak ambassador, a female named Zilia, stood before the assembly. Her large eyes scanned the room, sensing the mixture of curiosity, boredom, and contempt emanating from the gathered representatives. "Esteemed members of the council," Zilia began, her voice soft but clear, "we come before you today to seek protection and a place among the galactic community." A ripple of murmurs swept through the chamber. The Krexar representative, a hulking reptilian being, leaned forward. "And what do you offer in return, little one? Your people are known for their limitations." Zilia stood tall, undaunted. "We offer understanding. In a galaxy rife with conflict, we can bridge divides, heal emotional wounds, and foster cooperation." For a moment, silence reigned. Then, laughter erupted from various corners of the chamber. The Vulturi delegate, a being of pure energy, pulsed with amusement. "Understanding. Cooperation. The galaxy runs on power, little Zarthak. Your gifts are worthless here." One by one, the council members voiced their rejection. Some were polite, others openly mocking. But the message was clear. There was no place for the Zarthak among them. As Zilia and her delegation left the council chambers, their hearts heavy with despair, they knew their options were running out. Many of their people had already been displaced, their colonies encroached upon by expanding empires who saw the Zarthak as easy targets. Back on their homeworld, the Zarthak leaders gathered to discuss their future. The once vibrant cities of their planet now stood half-empty, as more and more of their people sought refuge among the stars. "We cannot stay here," one elder said, his voice trembling. "Our world is dying, and the galaxy has rejected us. What hope is left for our people?" Zilia, still reeling from the council's rejection, looked out at the assembled leaders. Despite the weight of despair that threatened to crush them, she felt a flicker of something else, a distant hope, faint but persistent. "There are still unexplored regions of the galaxy," she said, her voice gaining strength. "Perhaps somewhere out there, we will find a place where we are not judged by our physical strength, but by the strength of our hearts." As the Zarthak prepared for their exodus, loading their remaining population onto massive arc ships, they cast their gaze to the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of the Galactic Council and the oppressive empires that dominated known space, they hoped to find a new home. Little did they know that their journey would soon intersect with a species unlike any they had encountered before. A young, vibrant race from a blue-green world in an unassuming spiral arm of the galaxy, a species called humanity. In the vast silence of space, a faint signal pulsed. It was weak, barely noticeable against the cosmic background radiation. But for the scientists at the SETI Institute on Earth, it was the moment they had been waiting for their entire lives. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead researcher at SETI, stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The signal was repeating, a clear pattern that couldn't be explained by natural phenomena. Her hand shook as she reached for her phone. "Director Adams," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "We've found something. I think it's them. It's really them." Within hours, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity, after centuries of wondering if they were alone in the universe, had received its answer. They were not alone, and their cosmic neighbors were calling for help. As governments around the world scrambled to respond, a team of linguists and cryptographers worked tirelessly to decipher the message. It took weeks, but finally, they cracked it. The message was a distress call from a species calling themselves the Zarthak. United Nations Secretary General Amara Okafor stood before the General Assembly, her voice steady as she addressed the world. "Today, we face the greatest challenge and the greatest opportunity in human history," she said. "An alien species, the Zarthak, are in dire need of our help. They are refugees, rejected by their galactic neighbors, seeking the safe haven. The question before us is simple, yet monumental. Do we answer their call?" Debate raged across the globe. Some argued that humanity should focus on its own problems. Others saw this as a chance to prove humanity's worth on a cosmic scale. In the end, compassion and curiosity won out. The decision was made. Humanity would embark on its first interstellar mission. The ship, named Hope, was a marvel of human engineering. It incorporated the latest advancements in fusion propulsion and suspended animation technology. The crew, a diverse team of Earth's finest, trained for months before the launch. Captain Miguel Hernandez stood on the bridge of the Hope, watching Earth shrink in the view screen. "All right, team," he said, his voice filled with determination. "Let's make history." The journey was long and fraught with challenges. The crew faced equipment malfunctions, narrowly avoided a collision with an uncharted asteroid field, and struggled with the psychological toll of being the first humans to leave their solar system. Months passed. The crew alternated between periods of suspended animation and active duty. They studied the Zarthak message, learning what they could about the species they were going to meet. Then, on a day like any other, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Unknown object detected," the ship's AI announced. The crew rushed to their stations. On the main screen, a massive ship appeared. Its design was unlike anything they had ever seen, all curves and soft lines, pulsing with a faint, bluish light. "This is Captain Miguel Hernandez of the Earth ship Hope," Miguel said, his heart pounding. "We come in peace in response to your distress call." For a long moment, there was silence. Then a voice replied, soft and melodious. "Earth ship Hope, this is Zilli of the Zarthak. We didn't think anyone would come." The two ships drew closer. Through the view screen, the humans got their first look at the Zarthak. They were just as the message described, frail-looking beings with large, expressive eyes. As airlocks connected, and the first Zarthak stepped aboard the Hope, both species felt the weight of the moment. This was more than first contact. It was the beginning of a friendship that would change the fate of two species and challenge the very foundations of galactic society. Captain Hernandez extended his hand to Zilia, a gesture of peace and welcome. "On behalf of humanity," he said, "welcome. You're safe now." Zilia's large eyes shimmered with what the humans would later learn were tears of joy and relief. "Thank you," she said simply, grasping Miguel's hand. "Thank you." As the two leaders shook hands, neither could have predicted the incredible journey that lay ahead. A journey that would take humanity and the Zarthak to the stars and beyond, forever changing their destiny. The meeting room aboard the Earth ship Hope was tense with anticipation. Captain Miguel Hernandez sat at the head of the table, flanked by his senior officers. Across from them, Zilia and a small group of Zarthak representatives settled into chairs specially designed to accommodate their frail bodies. "Please," Miguel said gently, "tell us your story. Why did you send out that distress call?" Zilia's large eyes blinked slowly as she gathered her thoughts. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear. "Our tale is one of rejection and desperation," she began. "For centuries, we Zarthak have tried to find our place among the stars. But the galaxy is cruel to those it deems weak." As Zilia spoke, the humans listened in growing horror. She told them of powerful alien empires that saw the Zarthak as nothing more than pests to be exterminated or enslaved, of how their homeworld was dying, its resources stripped by uncaring alien mining corporations, of how they had pleaded with the Galactic Council for help, only to be laughed out of the chamber. "We are not warriors," Zilia explained, her voice trembling. "We cannot fight back. Our strengths lie in empathy, in understanding emotions and healing mental wounds. But in a galaxy that values only physical might and technological power, we are seen as useless." Dr. Sarah Chen, the xenobiologist on the team, leaned forward. "But surely your abilities must be valuable. The power to understand and heal minds. That's incredible." Zilia shook her head sadly. "To the powerful species that rule the galaxy, emotions are seen as weaknesses. They value conquest over cooperation, domination over understanding." Captain Hernandez's face was grim. "How many of your people are left?" he asked. "We number less than 1,000,000 now," another Zarthak said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "This ship carries the last of our kind. We have nowhere else to go." The room fell silent as the humans absorbed this information. The fate of an entire species now rested in their hands. Commander Yuki Tanaka, the ship's tactical officer, was the first to speak. "Captain, if we take in the Zarthak, we'll be making enemies of these galactic powers. Earth isn't ready for that kind of conflict." "But we can't just abandon them," Dr. Chen argued passionately. "It goes against everything we stand for as a species." As the debate raged among the human crew, Zilia and the other Zarthak watched silently, their large eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. Finally, Captain Hernandez held up a hand for silence. "This decision is too big for us to make alone," he said firmly. "We need to contact Earth and let our leaders decide." The next few days were tense as messages flew back and forth between the Hope and Earth. The UN Security Council debated endlessly, weighing the moral imperative against the potential risks. Meanwhile, the crew of the Hope spent time with the Zarthak, learning more about their culture and abilities. They were amazed by the Zarthak's capacity for empathy, their ability to sense and soothe emotional pain. Many of the crew found themselves opening up, sharing fears and worries they had never voiced before. "It's like they understand us better than we understand ourselves," one crew member remarked in awe. As they waited for Earth's decision, alarms suddenly blared throughout both ships. Multiple unidentified vessels approaching at high speed, the AI announced. On the bridge, Captain Hernandez watched in growing alarm as a fleet of sleek, predatory-looking ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel nearby. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer reported. A harsh, guttural voice filled the bridge. "Attention, unknown vessel. You are harboring fugitives of the Galactic Confederacy. Surrender the Zarthak immediately, or face destruction." Captain Hernandez's jaw clenched as he looked at Zilia, who had rushed to the bridge at the first sign of danger. Her large eyes were wide with terror. At that moment, a message came through from Earth. The UN had reached its decision. With the threat of an alien fleet looming before them, and the fate of an entire species hanging in the balance, Captain Hernandez opened the message. knowing that whatever it said would change the course of human history forever. Captain Miguel Hernandez's eyes flicked between the menacing alien fleet on the view screen and the message from Earth. With a deep breath, he read the UN's decision aloud. Humanity stands with the Zarthak. Bring them home. A cheer erupted on the bridge, quickly followed by tense silence as they remembered the threat looming before them. Zilia, Miguel said, turning to the Zarthak leader, we're taking you to Earth. But first we need to get out of here. Any ideas? Zilia's large eyes blinked rapidly. Our ship has a stealth system. It's not perfect, but it might buy us time. Good enough. Miguel nodded. Let's move. What followed was a daring escape. The Hope linked up with the Zarthak vessel, using its more advanced engines to tow the alien ship. As they accelerated away, the Zarthak activated their stealth technology, shrouding both ships in a field that bent light and deflected sensors. The Galactic Confederacy ships, caught off guard by their prey's sudden disappearance, began a frantic search pattern. But by the time they realized what had happened, the Hope and its precious cargo were already jumping to faster-than-light speed. The journey to Earth was long and fraught with danger. The Hope had to drop out of FTL travel regularly to allow the Zarthak ship to keep up and to avoid detection. During one such stop, deep in an uncharted star system, disaster struck. A piece of space debris, moving at incredible speed, punched through the Zarthak ship's hull. We're losing atmosphere. Zil-E's panicked voice came over the comms. Our life support systems are failing. Captain Hernandez made a split-second decision. We're bringing you aboard. Prepare for emergency evacuation. For the next few hours, humans and Zarthak worked side by side in a desperate race against time. The Hope's crew donned spacesuits and helped ferry the frail aliens across the void between the ships. It was dangerous work, with each trip risking exposure to the cold vacuum of space. As the last of the Zarthak were brought aboard, their stricken vessel imploded, crushed by the pressure differential. The sight was a stark reminder of how close they had come to tragedy. With the Zarthak safely aboard, the Hope resumed its journey. But the ship, now carrying far more passengers than it was designed for, faced new challenges. Our life support systems are strained, Commander Yuki Tanaka reported, and our food supplies won't last for the entire journey at this rate. Dr. Sarah Chen had an idea. The Zarthak need less food than we do, and they've offered to share their knowledge of hydroponics. We might be able to grow enough to supplement our supplies. And so, even as the ship raced through space, its interior was transformed. Empty cargo bays became makeshift gardens, glowing with artificial light as plants from two worlds grew side by side. The close quarters led to an unprecedented cultural exchange. Humans learned of Zarthak history and philosophy, while the aliens marveled at human art and music. Friendships formed, bridging the gap between species. But the journey was far from smooth. Twice more, they encountered Galactic Confederacy patrols, each time barely escaping detection. The constant stress began to take its toll on both humans and Zarthak. It was during one of these tense moments that the Zarthak's unique abilities proved their worth. As panic began to spread among the crew, Zilia and her people used their empathic powers to calm fears and boost morale. "It's incredible," one crew member said in awe. "It's like they can touch our minds, soothe our worries. With them around, I feel like we can face anything." As the days turned to weeks, and weeks to months, Earth grew closer. But so did the danger. The Galactic Confederacy, realizing where the fugitives were headed, began to mass their forces. Captain Hernandez knew that the final approach to Earth would be the most dangerous part of their journey. As the blue marble of humanity's homeworld finally appeared on their sensors, he called the entire crew and their Zarthak passengers to attention. "We've come this far together," he said, his voice firm with resolve. "Human and Zarthak, united in the face of adversity. Whatever happens next, we face it as one. For Earth, for the Zarthak, for the future of both our peoples." A cheer went up, A unified voice of two species joined in common cause. As the Hope began its final approach to Earth, the crew prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead, ready to fight for their shared future. The Hope's arrival in Earth's orbit was met with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. As the ship descended through the atmosphere, millions watched from the ground, their eyes fixed on the sky. The landing site, a specially prepared area in a remote part of New Zealand, was surrounded by a sea of onlookers and media crews. As the ship's doors opened, Captain Miguel Hernandez stepped out first, followed closely by Zilia. The crowd fell silent, then erupted in cheers as humans and Zarthak emerged together. United Nations Secretary-General Amara Okafor stepped forward to greet them. On behalf of humanity, she said, her voice carrying across the world through countless broadcasts, we welcome the Zarthak to Earth. Your journey ends here, and a new one begins, together. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The Zarthak were housed in a hastily constructed but comfortable facility nearby, as scientists and doctors worked to ensure Earth's environment was safe for them long-term. Dr. Sarah Chen led the medical team. Their physiology is fascinating, she reported. They're adapting well to Earth's gravity and atmosphere, but their sensitivity to light means we need to provide special accommodations. As the Zarthak began to settle, the real challenges of integration became apparent. Despite the general excitement, pockets of resistance emerged. Protest groups formed, arguing that Earth's resources should be used for humans, not aliens. In New York City, a large crowd gathered outside the UN headquarters. Humans first. They chanted, waving signs with slogans like Earth for Earthlings and Send Them Back. Zilia, watching the protests on a view screen, turned to Miguel with worry in her large eyes. Perhaps we've made a mistake in coming here, she said softly. We don't wish to cause strife among your people. Miguel shook his head firmly. No, Zilia. There will always be those who fear what's different, but there are far more who welcome you. We just need to help them understand. And so began a campaign of education and cultural exchange. Zarthak representatives were invited to schools, community centers, and media outlets around the world. They shared their stories, their art, and their unique perspective on the universe. In a town hall meeting in Lagos, Nigeria, a Zarthak named Vexor demonstrated their empathic abilities. As he sensed and soothed the anxieties in the room, many in the audience were moved to tears. It's like he could see into my soul, one attendee said afterward. And somehow he made the pain less. But integration wasn't just about the Zarthak adapting to Earth. Humanity, too, had to evolve. The presence of the aliens sparked a renaissance in fields from philosophy to technology. Universities created new departments of xenobiology and alien cultural studies. Artists found inspiration in the Zarthak's unique perception of the world, creating new forms of music and visual art. There were setbacks, of course. In a small town in Brazil, a Zarthak delegation was met with violence, rocks thrown at their vehicle. The incident sparked global outrage and renewed calls for acceptance. Speaking from the hospital where he was treated for minor injuries, the Zarthak ambassador said, "We understand fear. We have faced it ourselves. But we also know the power of compassion. We do not blame those who acted in fear. We only hope to show them a better way." His words, broadcast around the world, became a turning point. Slowly but surely, attitudes began to shift. 6 months after their arrival, the first Zarthak moved out of the temporary facility and into a human community. Zelna, a young Zarthak scientist, settled into an apartment in Tokyo. Her neighbor, an elderly human named Hiroshi Tanaka, initially watched her with suspicion. But one day, as Zelna struggled with a heavy package, Hiroshi found himself moving to help without thinking. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, a simple moment of connection that bridged the gap between worlds. As the seasons changed and Earth completed its first rotation since the Zarthak's arrival, both species looked to the future with cautious optimism. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges yet to be faced, but they would face them together, human and Zarthak, two species united by compassion and the shared hope for a better tomorrow. Little did they know that their greatest challenge was yet to come, as the eyes of the galaxy turned towards the unlikely alliance forming on this small blue planet. As Earth and the Zarthak worked towards a harmonious coexistence, the rest of the galaxy watched with growing unease. The Galactic Confederacy, a loose alliance of powerful alien species, had not forgotten about the escaped weaklings they had once scorned. On a distant planet of gleaming metal spires, the Confederacy's leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. Crag Thor, the hulking representative of the warlike Dreknar species, slammed his fist on the table. "These humans dare to shelter our rejects," he growled. "We must teach them their place in the galactic order." Scylla, the ethereal diplomat from the technologically advanced Corin, raised a slender hand. "Patience, Crag Thor. These humans are an unknown factor. We must study them before we act." As the debate raged, Earth remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in the stars. Months passed, and the integration of the Zarthak continued. In a surprising development, their empathic abilities found an unexpected application in human medicine. Zarthak healers, working alongside human doctors, made breakthroughs in treating mental illnesses and emotional trauma. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, head of psychiatry at a major hospital in Buenos Aires, marveled at the results. The Zarthak's ability to sense and influence emotions is revolutionizing our approach to mental health, she explained to a group of journalists. "We're seeing recovery rates that were unimaginable just a year ago." But not all of Earth's advancements were peaceful. The looming threat of the Galactic Confederacy spurred rapid development in defense technology. Scientists worked tirelessly to adapt and improve upon the Zarthak's stealth systems, creating a planetary shield that could hide Earth from prying alien eyes. Captain Miguel Hernandez, now promoted to admiral, oversaw the construction of Earth's first interstellar defense fleet. As he watched the sleek ships take shape in orbital shipyards, he couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and apprehension. "I never thought I'd see the day when we'd be preparing to defend ourselves against alien invaders," he mused to Zilia, who stood beside him on the observation deck. "I hope we never have to use these ships." Zilia's large eyes reflected the starlight as she replied, "Peace through strength, my friend. Your people have shown great wisdom in preparing for the worst while striving for the best." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. Long-range sensors had detected a massive fleet approaching the solar system. The Galactic Confederacy had finally made its move. As sirens blared across Earth, world leaders convened an emergency session. The UN Secretary-General's face was grim as she addressed the global audience. "People of Earth, the moment we have both feared and prepared for has arrived. An alien fleet approaches with unknown intentions, but we do not face this threat alone. Standing with us are our friends, the Zarthak, and the strength we have built together." As panic threatened to grip the planet, the Zarthak once again proved their worth. They moved among the human population, their empathic abilities calming fears and bolstering resolve. In city squares and community centers, humans and Zarthak joined hands, finding courage in unity. Admiral Hernandez stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the EDS Hope, named after the vessel that had first brought the Zarthak to Earth. Beside him, Zilia and a mixed crew of humans and Zarthak manned their stations. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his executive officer announced. Miguel took a deep breath. "Let's hope it doesn't come to a fight. Open a channel to the approaching fleet." As the communications officer worked to establish contact, tension filled the air. The fate of two species hung in the balance. Suddenly, the main screen flickered to life, revealing the alien visage of the Confederacy's lead ship captain. His eyes widened in surprise as he saw the mixed crew. "This is Admiral Miguel Hernandez of Earth," Miguel said, his voice steady. "We know why you're here, but before you take any action, I urge you to reconsider. Humanity and the Zarthak stand together. We are not the easy target you might have expected. The alien captain's expression was unreadable as he studied the humans and Zarthak working side by side. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the future of galactic relations teetered on a knife's edge. Then the alien spoke, his words translating through the ship's computers. Perhaps we have misjudged the situation. Admiral Hernandez, I believe it's time we talked. As negotiations began, a collective sigh of relief echoed across Earth. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, humanity and the Zarthak faced the galaxy not as outcasts, but as equals ready to claim their place among the stars. The negotiations between Earth and the Galactic Confederacy stretched on for days. In orbit above the blue planet, the massive alien ships hung like silent sentinels, a constant reminder of the delicate balance being struck. Inside the UN headquarters in New York, transformed into a hub of interstellar diplomacy, Admiral Miguel Hernandez and Zilhi sat side by side, facing the imposing figures of the Confederacy's representatives. You must understand, Kragthor, the Dreknar diplomat, growled. The galaxy operates on strength. The Zarthak were deemed unworthy. By harboring them, you risked the same judgment. Secretary General Amara Okefer leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. Perhaps it's time for the galaxy to reconsider its definition of strength. The alliance between humanity and the Zarthak has already yielded advancements neither of us could have achieved alone. As if on cue, Dr. Elena Rodriguez entered the room, accompanied by a Zarthak healer named Fenra. They carried with them the results of their latest breakthrough, a revolutionary treatment for a degenerative neural disease that had long plagued the Quarren species. Scylla, the Quarren representative, studied the data with widening eyes. This is impossible. Our best scientists have sought a cure for generations. Venera spoke softly, her large eyes filled with compassion. It was the combination of your people's advanced biotechnology, human ingenuity, and our empathic healing that made this possible. Together, we are more than the sum of our parts. A murmur ran through the alien delegation. For the first time, they began to see the potential in this unlikely alliance. Meanwhile, across Earth, humans and Zarthak watched the proceedings with bated breath. In homes, schools, and public squares, they gathered around screens, hoping for a peaceful resolution. In a small Tokyo apartment, Zelna the Zarthak scientist and her human neighbor, Hiroshi Tanaka, sat together, sharing a meal of sushi and a Zarthak delicacy. Whatever happens, Hiroshi said, patting Zelna's hand, you'll always have a home here. Back in the negotiation room, a breakthrough was forming. Kragthor, who had been the most vocal opponent, suddenly fell silent, his eyes fixed on a datapad. These military advancements, he muttered, the combination of Zarthak stealth technology and human tactical innovations, it's unlike anything we've seen. Admiral Hernandez nodded. We don't seek conflict, but we are prepared to defend ourselves and our allies. However, we believe there's a better way forward, one where we all benefit from cooperation rather than competition. As the talks continued, a new idea began to take shape. The Galactic Confederacy, long set in its ways, was beginning to see the value in diversity. The unique strengths of humanity and the Zarthak offered new solutions to age-old problems. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, an agreement was reached. Earth and the Zarthak would be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Confederacy, with full rights and protections. In return, they would share their innovations and help usher in a new era of galactic cooperation. As the treaty was signed, cheers erupted not just on Earth, but on ships and planets across the galaxy. The news spread like wildfire. The rejected Zarthak and the unknown humans had changed the face of galactic politics forever. In the following months, the effects of this new alliance rippled across the stars. Joint human Zarthak expeditions set out to explore the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Diplomatic missions work to heal old wounds and forge new friendships with species long considered enemies. On a distant world, a team of human engineers worked alongside Zarthak empaths and Dreknar warriors to contain a devastating natural disaster, saving millions of lives. Their success was hailed as a shining example of what could be achieved through cooperation. A year to the day after the negotiations, a grand ceremony was held in the newly constructed Galactic Embassy on Earth. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered to celebrate the first anniversary of the Great Union, as it had come to be known. Admiral Hernandez, standing proudly next to Zilia, addressed the assembled crowd. A year ago, we faced extinction. Today, we stand at the dawn of a new age. We have proven that true strength lies not in domination, but in understanding. Not in fear, but in compassion. Zilia nodded, her large eyes shimmering with emotion. Together, we have shown the galaxy a better way. And this is just the beginning. As the ceremony concluded, fireworks lit up the night sky, their colorful bursts visible from orbit. On ships and stations above, aliens of all species watched in awe, many seeing Earth for the first time not as a threat, but as a beacon of hope. The galaxy, vast and ancient, had been forever changed by the unlikely alliance of a weak alien species and a young, compassionate humanity. As the stars twinkled in the night sky, they seemed to shine a little brighter, illuminating the path to a future filled with endless possibilities.